even in getting rid of the having to hold it, people still are distracted because they're involved in their conversations.
Oh, really?
Yeah, is what. So they're trying to make it to where you can't talk on your cell phone at all. But I don't know if
It won't ever pass.
I don't think they'll ever be able to go that far.
Because, no, I don't either, because too many people use it, and it's so much easier. Like when I used to go to Abilene, there's one place that we never knew where it was at, so we just pull over on the side of the road.
Mm-hmm.
And I always carried my cell phone, and we pull over and stop. We didn't try to.
Yeah.
My daughter-in-law's got something wrong with her.
Oh.
We don't know yet. Has to do with her heart. You know, they took her kidney out.
Yeah, I remember
Did I tell you about that?
Yeah.
Well, she hadn't been doing very good. She's so poor you can hardly.
Why, she's a...
Oh,
that's the first time I'd seen her for a while when I saw her at the hospital, you know, when you had your
she
surgery.
looked bad, but she looks worse now.
Yeah.
I hope she can get on, Jeff, because she tries to keep all that away from me. And I told her one day, I said, if either one of y'all is sick, I want to know.
Yeah.
But she didn't tell me. The other day, Jeff, he comes over on Tuesday and Wednesday if I need him to do anything. That's why I was waiting. I was going to let him put that out for me. And he said, Mother, I said, what's Sharon doing? He said, well, she's been back to the doctor. And I said, well, what's wrong? Why? I thought that was all cleared up. He said when they did that kidney surgery, they told her that they didn't know for sure, but it's something to do with her heart, that she might have some blockage somewhere, or it may be a slow every other beat, which, you know, Mama's heart would beat once to stop and beat her whole life. So they're running tests trying to find out what the problem is.
Oh, okay.
What's the matter with my throat?
Well, hopefully it won't be anything serious.
Oh,
they can control most everything with medicine these days. So, I mean, Mom's
yeah, I've got to get up and take mine.
Mom's heart rhythm was bad forever.
Well, Matt, would you tell us the story about Nelson?
Yeah, you know, that I was only 6 years old, and that's just as clear today as it was back when it was happening.
Yeah, you told me the story
started,
2 or 3 times. I want Isabel to hear it.
Lynn and Nelson both had the croup when we went to bed. But before that, he had told, this was way back before he died, he started telling all our friends and neighbors that would come in, Mr. Scott drop in, Miss Evelyn Bobo, and the Smiths across the field, that he wouldn't, no, Smiths wasn't there then, Montgomery's were, that he was going to die in a few days. And everybody, oh, Nelson, you're not going to die. He wasn't sick. He said, yes, I am. I'm going to die. Well, one day, Mom was cooking dinner, and we were either playing behind the stove or in the hall all the time when she was cooking. Well, we were in the front room playing, and Nelson said, let's go to the kitchen. It was cold weather. And Mama's stove sat catty corners, one of those big home comforts. And we'd go back behind there and play. And he come out and he said, Mama said, you kids get back in the front room. I can't cook and y'all screaming and holler. You'll just play it. And Nelson said, he always called Mama Mother. He said, Mother, don't make me go back because I'm going to die tomorrow. And she said, oh, honey, you're not going to die. This was before he got the croups. This was just cooking supper. So she let him stay. And then I went back in the front room. Well, you know, you had boys that were playing all the time. Well, that's the way Lynn Nelson and I would wrestle and just be kids. Well, they crouped all night. Mama would pick one up and hold it a while, then she'd hold the other one, try and get rid of it. Well, about daylight, the croup left. That's normal for croup. You used to have the croup.
So who had it? You and Lynn?
Huh?
Or Lynn and Nelson had the croup?
Yeah, both of them had the croup.
You didn't have it?
I've never had the croup. Nelson never had it before. That's his first time. Well, about daylight, Lynn's croup left his okay. Well, Nelson just kept coughing and whining, couldn't breathe. Mother, I can't breathe. Well, she'd pick him up and go on the back porch, because they screened ends where the boys slept, and he could breathe a little bit better. Well, she was beginning to get worried, so she told me, said, Mutt, go ring the bell. When the boys was at work, or if they needed, we had a big old bell. Wanza had it in her backyard.
Oh,
And I rang the bell, well, Bubba came to the house, and he said, what's the matter, Mama? And she said, well, something's wrong with Nelson, and we've got to have a doctor. Well, one neighbor in Real Shade had a phone, Mr. Quinn. They were real wealthy people. So he went over and called the doctor, and Dr. Tom said, well, I'll be there as soon as I can. Well, see, that's 14 miles out of Kearns to our house. So Mom was still sitting by the fireplace holding him. And he raised up and looked down the road, and he said, oh, Mother, Grandma's coming to see me die. She was in her little horse and buggy. That's what she drove all the time. And when Grandma walked in the front door, she just, oh, Emma, that baby's sick. She said, yes, I'll step
and which grandmother was this?
I only had one, Grandma McAvaney,
Okay.
Mama's mother. She was a tall, stooped over, she was real sweet. Took my little room. All the boys finally got out, and I'm going to get my room. And they'd go, her house burned down, she moved in mine. I never got a room for myself. Evelyn asked me here a while back, Mom, where did I sleep when I was little? I said, what do you think? And the bed was missed full of Mom and Papa's bed. Anyway, the doctor finally got there, and Mom was sitting there holding him, and doctor said, son, can you take this medicine? And he said, yes, sir. And he got up on his hands and knees and put his arms around Mama's neck and said, I love you, Mother. And the doctor put the medicine in his mouth, it went down and came back up. It's gone.
Wow.
The night before he died, we were all in the front room wrestling and playing, and all my brothers were home for some reason that night. And Nelson started going around and crawling up in their lap and hugging and kissing them and said, well, I'll die tomorrow. Well, Dick said he wouldn't let him. He said, get off of me, there ain't nothing wrong with you. Well, he died, next morning. He was dead before 1 o'clock.
And how old was he?
He was 5, I was 6, he was 5, Lynn was 4. But that's just plain, I can still see his little face. And it upset Dick so. See, all they did was put the ironing board up and let Nelson stretch him out on the ironing board until they come and picked him up, which was the next day or the next day after sometime. Anyway, Dick got one of the straight chairs put by his body, and they had to drag him away from him because, see, he wouldn't let Nelson touch him. It like to kill him.
What? And didn't Nelson, like, he would stand up on stools and stuff and preach? Didn't he like to?
Oh, that was on that old high chair. Mama would be in the kitchen, and this one particular, this all happened within a month when he told us he's going to die. He told me and Lynn, said, y'all sit down and I'm going to preach my sermon because I'm going to die. And he said, Mother, can I have old Jerry Archie? He was one of those preachers that stomped and hollered and carried on you. I don't know, they may still do that somewhere, but that was the only one that did it real shade. And he got up on that high chair and he raved and preached and kind of imitated the old preacher. And sure enough, Mama got him to preach his funeral. But it's, I guess I'm funny. I've always felt like we just had an angel for 5 years in our life.
Did he ever say how he knew he was going to die?
Never did.
Never said. He just said he.
I've wondered. He also had diphtheria with this croup, and I've wondered about this. It may just be crazy, but I had an old cat had a bunch of kittens, and we always had cats on the place. And Papa killed those kittens and buried them. Nothing ever happened that I didn't know about. This ditch was down by the tool shed. Where all the cultivators and all that stuff was, the big ditch which we crawfish in, play in, because you could hide and not see out. And I thought Papa buried them kittens. Well, I dug them up, and me and Lynn Nelson played with them kittens, and he wound up with diphtheria. Now, I don't know if them cats had anything to do with it or not, But I've thought about it a lot because it was right after we played with them little kittens.
Were they dead? I mean,
Yeah, they were dead. They're buried. I dug them out of the ground.
what, did Papa kill them?
Papa's always killing cats because we had cats all over. You know, little cats
Yeah.
would come up and stay. Buba'd milk in a pan. They'd eat at the cow pen. And she had those kittens, and he killed them because we had some more besides
many.
him. But they were babies. He killed them when he was first born.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I'd bury him. I went down and scratched him up and give off. We got them little kittens and played with them.
I bet Big Mama could have.
Oh, no one ever knew that.
Nobody knew it? Oh.
No one knew that but me. I never told anybody I dug them dead cats up. I got a whipping and still be burning. Oh, we have.
I don't know if playing with a dead kitten could give you diphtheria. Probably not.
Well, see, if you're around diphtheria, you have to have a shot.
Mm-hmm.
And it took Mama and Bubba both to hold me to get mine because they gave Lynn his first.
So, I'm
I
not
can
having
remember that too, fighting and kicking, doing my best to get loose.
So Nelson was just getting over the diphtheria when he got the croup.
No, that's what killed him.
See,
That's what he died of, diphtheria.
they found out after he was dead, the doctor said, well, he had memory croup with that diphtheria.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, a lot of things happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's something told that little boy that it was going to happen.
My guardian angel might. Randy told you what happened out here in the yard, didn't he?
No,
Yeah.
I did tell him.
You didn't
Tell
tell
that
him?
story
No,
again.
Yeah.
Well,
But,
I
I mean,
want to hear. I want to hear it again.
Yeah, you told me before, but tell us again. Yeah.
Well, I was mowing the front yard. You noticed that we're on a hill.
Mm-hmm.
Looks more hilly now than it did. And I stopped, got just past that middle tree, and I couldn't push the lawnmower. I'd already mowed all down the back, and I right up to where the yard goes up high. And I stopped, stood there a minute, and I tried to, because if you leave anything up close to the street, it's going to be stolen.
Yeah.
I said, I've got to get this lawnmower on up past this mulberry tree. And I was standing there like, well, what am I going to do? Because I was going out, and this man showed up right beside of me. He was dressed in a white suit, and he had white splotches. In fact, he wasn't black, but he wasn't white. He was kind of almost about the color of me, only you can tell the difference in people. And I looked up and I said, well, all I want is this lawnmower moved about to leak to this door. I said, I've mowed all this yard and I'm just so tired I cannot push it another bit. Well, he took the lawnmower and pushed it up where I showed him where to put it. And he said, well, is there anything else you need? And I said, no, sir. And I turned around and said, wasn't nobody there. And I seen him as plain as I see you.
Yeah.
So I looked across the street to see if he would. No way he could have got down that hill that quick. But I looked anyway because I thought, well, maybe he's painting somewhere. Well, when I couldn't find him, I didn't come in the house. I went up to Moselle's. And I said, Moselle, something funny happened to me. And she said, what happened? And I told her. I said, all of a sudden, that man was right there by me and moved my lawnmower. And she said, well, Mutt's your guardian angel. Everybody has a guardian angel. I said, he wasn't an angel. He was just a man dressed in white.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, he even had white spots on his hands. Like you see some people that are spotted.
Yeah, that's skin conditioning.
And he said, do you need anything else? And I said, no, that's all, thank you. He's gone.
Huh.
I mean, he was gone, right, just like that. Weird. Well,
What?
it scared me.
Yeah, I bet it would. It would
look
me.
what happened when your JB died.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably, what time Lazy get off work from a Little Regal? Wasn't it about 5?
It was,
Might
yeah.
have been a little bit later.
around that
because
time.
It was almost dark. I had sat in here, you know, JB's bed was
Yeah, he
over
was
there.
over here.
And I had sat and always sat by him to help his hand. And I said, well, honey, I believe all it's got just a light mist. It wasn't really raining, but it's kind of cold. And I said, I think I'll walk outside for a few minutes. And he said, okay. And I got up and I just walked around and walked over. Was under that pecan tree, and I kind of kicked the dirt looking because we'd had pecans. And a voice said, you need help. Just like that, come out of the air. I turned around, walked back, walked down the hall, went to the phone, picked it up, and I said, Lacey? And he said, sis, you need me? I said, yes. That's all I said. He said, as soon as I get my breeches back on, said, I just pulled off my suit, and I'll be right over. Well, he changed clothes and come right on over. He come through the door, he had a bottle of beer in one hand, his a weekly, Western Weekly in his other hand. And he walked over to the bed and he said, hi, J.B. And he said, hi, Lacey. Of course, it was almost a whisper. He couldn't talk real good. And he said, Muddy, if it's all right, you care if I go lie down for a while? And I said, no. And I went back and fixed his bed. He said, I'm awfully tired. And said, I brought me a book to read. And I said, go ahead. Well, he went in there. It was New Year's Day. New Year's. And we always watched Times Square. So I got up and turned the TV on. We had it sitting here. And I sat down, had moved my little couch right where y'all at, put away so when I wanted to lay down, I could lay down without shaking his bed. But I didn't lay down because I was watching Times Square. Well, right in the middle of one of the songs, his body started, and he hadn't moved in weeks because I would just pull the sheet out from under him, and I took all of his undershirts and split them down the back where I could slide them on. You couldn't move him. And I jumped off the bed. I'd already gone over and tried to hold him. I said, Lazy, come on, something's happening. And he come in. Well, he got at the foot and was trying to hold his leg and massage him. You couldn't rub him hard, his skin would roll off. He was rotten. He had a hole up here, and he had a hole here that had, his whole body was eat up.
And he wouldn't let anybody come in and help him?
No. Them I could stay 3 minutes. So I put on the door limit 3 minutes. The last month or two he lived, he didn't want, we wouldn't even let Jeff come in.
Yeah.
He could come in, but he didn't want to stay. And I thought, well, my guardian angel got me help.
That daddy over there.
Jeff really got upset with his daddy, and he never talks about it.
Yeah.
See, all his life he was jealous J.B. was jealous of Jeff because he thought that I loved Jeff better than I did him.
Well, he was extremely jealous of everything over you.
Everybody. I walked past the Scott boys that I grew up with, all the boys I went to, I didn't dare speak to them if we happened to. Of course, he didn't know them, but he knew the Scotts because they come tiny and us all lived together for a while. But I think it was J.B.'s life. See, his mother died when he was 3 years old. And this aunt and uncle keep him wild, and that aunt and uncle keep him wild, and this was still happening when he and I met. And he went to school if he wanted to. If he didn't go, he didn't go. Back then, they didn't make kids go to school. And he went to the 5th grade, and he quit and tried to find work because Daddy was dead. Daddy took care of the whole bunch. Even Clyde was grown, but all he thought about was trying to work enough money to drink beer on. And he just had a sad life. He never had a Christmas tree, never had Christmas. And when we got married, and well, he loved Mama to death. Well, of course, Mama made me marry him.
Yeah, I know you said that he wasn't your first choice. That she got rid of the man you wanted to get married.
My whole life, I never had a say-so about anything. And it's almost that bad even after I got married. And I never thought anything about it because that's the way I was raised.
Yeah.
And it was worse with me. Now, the boys could do what they wanted to. But if my mother and daddy wasn't bossing me, one of them brothers was. I'll never forget one night, me and Henry was supposed to be at church, but we're sitting in a car. I don't know whose car it was. And we was hugging and a kissing, and all of a sudden that door come open, there stood that lazy. He said, Henry Hale, if you're gonna date my sister, you get your ass out of the car and get in the church house. Okay, lazy, okay, lazy. Lazy didn't get 2 steps from him, he was out of that car. We went to the church house. Lazy and I had a lot of fun. We dated a lot together before I was married to JB. And well, this was so funny one time. He was all dressed up in his suit. He had a date with a school teacher. Now, who was I? I think I was with Kutch that night. And it's because of our car. Anyway, he was playing the teacher and her wife. I was living with them, both be taking care of the kids. We had 2 babies about, they were both babies. Both of them were still in diapers and bottles. And Lazy got the baby and he was playing with her and he held her up over it. She dirtied it. It just come right down.
His suit.
Pooped on his nice suit. Of course, Bill Batten and one of the other teachers that ran the room there run in and they got alcohol in me. They got it off. He didn't smell, but I thought, oh my goodness. I never will forget that.
Yeah, you had quite an experience with all them brothers. I think
Oh Lord, yes.
one of my favorite stories you tell is Uncle Lynn catching Daddy behind the stove with that his girlfriend, and he was playing with her milkers.
Oh yeah, that was in high school. Virgil Lee Ferris. Virgil Lee. That was the first year that I went to school. And oh boy, I tell you what, playing them milkers.
He told everybody at the kitchen table, didn't he? Weren't y'all having
We
dinner?
were all at the dinner table, and he was telling what happened at school. See, we had a
And
great
who told
big
who?
old,
What?
Lynn told on Daddy.
big round
So that's where
belly.
I got that, huh?
The stove, we had wood stoves. There were those great old big ones. Well, he was hid behind he and Virgil Lee was back at the back part of it was recessed anyway, and they were in there naked. Well, Lynn run in hunting his brother, and he found him, and he was back behind that, and he was playing with Virgil Lee's milkers. He didn't even know what they were called. He knew you got milk from the cows.
Milkers.
Oh,
I can only imagine what
see,
Big Mama
funny part, he was tongue-tied too. He couldn't talk real good.
Lynn couldn't.
Oh, he was great big for you. The family could understand him, but other people couldn't. And Lady was playing with that bull's milkers. Oh, Lady like to
I bet he
die.
could have just melted away.
Well, what about the story about, you told me about Jay, you couldn't figure out how to change the filter in the vent hood or something on the stove? You couldn't figure it out and Jeff couldn't figure it out, but then JB came to you in a dream or something and told you how to do it?
I done forgot about that.
Do you remember the story?
I don't remember.
I do remember you were doing something with the stove. Yeah, there was something with the stove.
Some filter that nobody knew how to get into, and
Something happened, but I can't remember what it was. Don't tell me.
yeah, anyway, that was one of the,
So
you
many.
told me that story before.
And
We had a lot of weird things happening. Well, that was those two, especially that about go get help. Now that was as strange as the guy moving the lawnmower.
and you just knew to go in and call somebody right away, huh?
Well, yeah, because it said you need help.
Mm-hmm.
Just plain as you can say it. Only it come out of the sky or somewhere, just within my brain.
Yeah.
You need help.
So JV, was he on any kind of medicine or anything at the end? Any pain medicine?
Yeah, he was. I had switched from the pills to morphine.
Oh, okay.
You don't live long after you get morphine.
Yeah.
That's the last resort.
But nowadays he would.
I wish they would do their normal thing. They may not do it because you're here. But
How old is Patches now?
I don't know. She's old.
We've had her.
Hannah
Gosh,
Ray
you've had her for.
Hannah Ray is 24, And I got that cat when she was either 4 or 5 years old. She had the boy cat, and I got this one. And Dickens died last year, so she's pretty old. She cleans the cat's ears. She licks that cat's ears out, and that cat will lay just as still and hold her. And then they fight to get on that table. One will get on one side and on the other, and she'll slap. I will slap her hard, 'cause she just pesters that poor old cat. And they get wrestled just like two kids without their legs around each other. And got so she'll bark real loud, and when she gets real loud, I said, "Now you stop that barking loud. You can't bark loud." And if she forgets down bark, sometimes she'll look up at me real quick to see if I'm gonna get on her.
And you've had her, she's about what, 5 or 6
Yeah,
now, isn't she?
she's either 4 or 5. I gotta get her papers and look. I think she's that old.
Yeah.
Well, Mutt, I have a story to tell you about Daddy.
I wanna know.
And it was when Daddy died. And of course we were over there at Isabel's house in the back room.
Yeah.
And when he passed over, it was straight up 12 o'clock. And Daddy died with his eyes fixed on.
12 o'clock?
Mm-hmm. He passed away with his eyes fixed.
Nighttime?
No, during the
During
day.
the day.
During the day?
Yeah, and he died with his eyes fixed on a picture of Isabel and Donna and I. And so I went in Isabel's house. You have to go up to the front of the house to get a cell phone signal. That's where my cell phone was sitting. And I went in there and I called Paul, and he was at the dentist, and I called to left a message for him on his phone. And I went back in there in the room with Daddy and Isabel. And then my phone rang. And I thought it was Paul, so I went back in there and answered the phone, and it was my friend Ra. I have a friend of mine he's a psychic, if you will. And he said, "Alan, you need to breathe deep. You're hyperventilating. I did that when my father died." So he knew that my dad had died just at that moment.
Oh, I see what you...
And he called me, and he'd never called my cell phone before. He was coming out of his house. He got
Oh, I believe seriously in things, because it happened to me 3 different times, 3
Yeah.
different things.
So that's what happened the moment Daddy died.
It's like one day I was laying here on the floor, and this has happened to Moselle, because JB always got a pillow and laid on the floor and watched TV. Well, one night I was laying there, I hadn't even thought about him, and laying there watching TV, and all of a sudden I felt his presence right beside me. It only lasted that long, but for a minute I could feel him. Couldn't see, but I had that feeling. And I was telling Moselle about it. She said, "But same thing happened to me not very long ago." Or something she was doing, said all at once Robert was right there by me. I said, I know how you feel, because same thing has happened to me.
You know, I think at times when, it's just still it happens to me randomly in the house, I'll just start thinking about Mom, or I'll start thinking about Daddy, and I'm just thinking if they're not there with me at that moment, and that's what's making me think about it, because it's just random times,
I think so too.
It just pops in my head.
I know it's a weird feeling, but I sure thank God for sending somebody. I'd have been here by myself.
Yeah, and that would have been hard.
See,
You were wore out already.
This was when Thomas Squire was just going off. He died at brand new year.
Yeah.
Morning, brand new year.
Hmm.
And they had already told me, well, the doctor told me when he come by here and told JB, said, "JB, you're gonna die. There's not a thing I can do about it." And he told me, come on in here, and he said, "Now this is gonna happen. There's nothing can be done. First thing you do, you call the police." And I wouldn't have known to do that. He said, "You call the police, and they will come and check it out, and they will call the coroner. He will have to come, and he will have to come fully dressed, suit, tie, and the whole thing." And he did. He just walked in and looked at him, and said, "Well, what did he die with?" And I said, "Well, if you'll look at him, he's eat up with cancer, because he had that hole up here, and he had a hole right here." And I knew the house smelt bad, but I really had went back to work the week after he passed away. And I didn't notice it because I had been in it all the time. I didn't even notice it home work. One day Jeff came in and he said, "Mother, you just got to do something about this house. This house smells like Daddy. It's terrible." And I said, "It does." He said, "Yeah." Well, that's when I got Jake to come tear all the wallpaper off, and I put carpet. I redid the whole thing. Remember, I had all wallpaper.
Yeah, I remember
And,
that.
no one should die like that.
Well, and then
He didn't die overnight. He died. It took 6 months.
Yeah.
See, he had cancer 3 years. He took his lung out. He took his kidney out. And when it got down in the liver, that's when you can't do nothing once it gets in the liver.
Now did JB smoke?
He smoked
Yeah.
back when he was a kid. He hadn't smoked after we was living over there, and he got pneumonia. And Mama come and stayed with us a week so I could go to work, and he never smoked again. I don't know what year that was, but it was first year we married. First year we had that little house. Anyway.
Okay. Wonder what caused him to get lung cancer.
Well, I tell you,
You
the
think
more
being
I
up in
hear
the
on the
attic?
news about
Well, he's in the Navy.
that
That's
melanoma,
true.
melanoma, whatever it is that kills you, JB would come home because most of these big houses, the air conditioning is in the attic. He would come home and that insulation would be in his ears,
So
in
probably
his
asbestos
nose,
at that time.
and all over his clothes. He pulled his clothes off outside when he'd been working in that. Well, you can entertain yourself. You don't need to be the whole show.
Well, I've had 2 dreams about Daddy, and the second one was somebody had taken the vase out off of his headstone out there at Laurel Inn. And something told me to go out there and check on the graves out there, and sure enough, I went there and somebody had stolen his vase, and he was mad about his vase being gone.
Was it gone?
Yeah. Something told me I need to go out there and check.
Well,
Check the.
that's same as what that
I'm
guy
sure that's what
told
it was
me.
about.
Oh, I believe it. I don't know.
He didn't like thieves.
Well, one time, my friend Margaret told me she and somebody else had started home from church and they run out of gas. And it was way out in the nowhere. And she said, and I didn't believe it till this happened to me. And she said, and Mutt said, we all just prayed that something or somebody would come by and said, this guy come by and had gas and some gas and poured that gas in our car when we got home.
Mm.
And said our prayer was answered.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't happen. But it did because it just happened.
Yeah.
Just like that guy telling me to move up. You know what Evelyn said? You just made that up.
That sounds like Evelyn. She's very skeptical. For her to be,
She is so changed since
Yeah.
she's had that.
since she's
those
been sick.
strokes. Bless her heart, the other day was up here. She's down right just that bad. Some days it's worse than other days. But she has, I think her memory of today is pretty good, but the past, because she's always asking me something that happened back when growing up and when she was little. Like she didn't know where she slept. She said, "Well, where'd I sleep when I was a baby and a little girl?"
Yeah.
And I said, "You slept in my bed at Mom and Papa's feet where I slept my whole life. When I had company, we all slept our beds were where nowhere else we could sleep, on the floor. Old preacher told me we got to sleep on the
Hello.
floor. I think that's why I don't like preachers.
No, I'm over.
Well, the back porch was full of boys.
Yeah.
The little room was full of boys. Dick and Blackie lived with us when they first married for a few months. Bubba and Esther lived with us till them Lou was born. And I was always just at the foot of the bed. And can you imagine people now, if they had to sleep at the foot of their parents' bed, well, they
Till
come
they're,
apart.
till they're
No, I didn't
16.
know I didn't know any different because most of my friends did the same thing.
Yeah.
Outgrew our house.
Well, were you born when Daddy and I guess it was HT had the fight over the roller skates where they could only have one skate each?
Oh yeah, I was there right in the middle of it. I'll tell you when that happened. You know that little electric thing over in Trinidad? The
Yeah.
electricity?
Power plant, yeah.
See, they were putting that through. That's the reason Mom and them did this. The last highline post was across the road in Mr. Scott's cotton patch.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Mama and Papa and Robert Scott, that was our next door neighbor, and Cleo McAvaney, which was a cousin, had come from the night. And they got up real early. They'd all heard about the new plant that was going to put electricity in. And Mama got up and she packed a basket of food. Back then there was a ferry that went across Trinity River.
Yeah.
And you'd get in it and you could pull a rope and take you all the way across.
Oh.
I don't know why they didn't leave there. I guess it rotted away. Anyhow, she packed a lunch. Well, they all started by the pole, and they walked from real shade, across the pasture, down the lake, all the way to that new power plant.
Just to see
They
it?
went over and looked that power plant over. Well, that had been that Christmas. Papa had bought roller skates for the boys. They never got but one gift, and that was a sharing gift.
Yeah.
So the boys pushed all the furniture over to the wall, and I think Bully and Sloaney, some more of the Scott kids that we all grew up together, and they looked back. Well, you could only have one skate. They fussed and fought all day, and I can't remember who was on the skate, but there was at the corner. Well, by our fireplace was like this. There was a big window here and a big window here in that old farmhouse. Well, I don't know if it was one of us or if it was one of the Scots, but anyway, it went sailing right through broke it. And those old windows were big windows, and of course, there were no screens on them. And he went right through that window. Oh, those boys, they were scared to death. What was Papa going to do when they got home? But they didn't get home till dark. And he just looked at it and, well, you know better than to skate in the house, but they got all the furniture back. He just went out and got some boards and nailed it up on them. Didn't say a word, just had an old board window for about summertime.
It's a wonder they weren't cut when they went through that window, you know?
It wasn't, but no one got a scratch. It went right through it. Right big old window, just but right down through the middle. No telling how little window it was. And you know, Dick, I don't know, do y'all know what tom walkers are?
No?
Well, you've seen them, but you just didn't know what it was. You know, these stilts that you
Yeah.
Oh,
Still,
yes.
yeah.
we used to make our own, or Dick made them for us.
Mom made some for me. She probably made some for you too.
Oh, yeah.
You
Yeah.
get a pud, put your foot, and a strap hold in.
Yeah.
Well, Dick didn't ever want to share anything with anybody. What was his was his. So he made his tall enough that he would get up on the house, and his feet were where he could step down in his off the house.
Oh
That
my
way,
gosh.
way none of the rest of us could use his tall walker.
Oh my goodness.
Because I would have been the only one, because he and I were
You've been
pretty
the only
close,
one brave
we're the
enough.
same size.
Yeah.
As soon as I got of age, but that was so funny. And plus, he could get up on the house and look down the Scots to see if anybody was in their yard. Anybody down the yard, because Blackie, you know, they were sweethearts always.
Yeah.
And
So from little, they grew up. So Blackie was next door to you guys, huh?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
There was 8 Scott kids and 8 Trench kids.
Wow.
And we all, in the wintertime, is back and forth because they played dominoes. The grown people did. We used to play, the little kids play hide the thimble or some little games. We got big enough to play 42, then we played too. In fact, one winter, Bill Scott and I won. We beat everybody in town. Everybody, you gang up, this table and that table, and you'd switch. Who lost stayed put.
Yeah.
And the others would go up ahead. Well, we played all winter and come out, Bill and I came out winners over 42. We
My
played
daddy
dominoes.
was, I know Daddy was a good domino player, you know,
Well, we grew up with dominoes.
I never could beat him. And he would know, we would play and he
Oh,
could,
you were down.
I was just playing regular dominoes.
playing
'cause
regular
I didn't know how to
dominoes.
play 42. But when Daddy was living with me, we'd play dominoes and he would know what I had in my hand.
Well, if you play all the time,
And I'd
you
say-
can pretty well read the dominoes.
He'd say, you got this left in your hand. I'm like, how do you know that? And he says, well, I know what's been played. Here was this poor little old man that couldn't remember what happened, you know, a
Well, he
minute
could read
ago.
them dominoes.
But he could read those dominoes like I just,
All the boys played dominoes. One time they
Well,
played.
down there at the car barn.
well, that's all he
down-
did.
down
Oh,
Yeah.
they
at the
played
bus
the car
station.
barn too.
Oh
Yeah,
my
they-
gosh, yeah.
When I'd go in there, Daddy used to take me in there when I was little.
I went a few times with Daddy.
And
You know-
every table out there had the domino game on it.
Yeah.
In the,
Well, that was the main game. You didn't have all this electric stuff.
Yeah.
I
I don't know why, I never could figure out why all the guys were there. Were they there before their shifts or after their shifts?
probably some of it was after the shift.
Because I never could figure out why all those men were still there. But, you know, I didn't give it any thought really until I got older.
Well, they may be waiting for some overtime or something where they'd run their regular route and then they'd
Waiting to pick up another.
pick
Well,
up.
you know,
Route.
Ray and Lacy both used to go back over and visit some of the players. Even that when Lacy lived across the street there, Mud, I'm gonna go over to the Domino Hall. That's where he's talking about. They'd always be one or two long when he'd get over there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, there was always, every time I would go, there was a domino game. And I would mainly, I think the only time I went in was, I would ride the bus sometimes with Daddy at the end of his route.
Right.
And then so I would be with him when he would go back
The car barn.
to get the car barn, yeah, to get his car and go home. So,
There was a black janitor they had down there when I was a little guy, and he was afraid of snakes, and so some of the operators down there gave me this wooden snake and had me chase the janitor around with the snake.
We had a guy.
well, you probably got to do more as a boy. I was probably pretty much protected from all those men by Daddy. You probably didn't let me run around too much as a little girl.
Yeah, I imagine, because don't tell. He'll pull the door open on you. You know, he means what he says too. Well, I have to say I had the best brothers that anybody could ever have. Cause
They
just
certainly
like
looked
Bubba.
after you.
Bubba watched after me. Papa kicked me one time when Nelson was little, because Nelson had my doll. You know, I can still remember that. And I was going to pull my doll out of Nelson's hands, because that was my baby. He didn't have a doll. And Papa ready to kick me, and boy, Bubba come out of that chair, don't you ever kick her again.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
Stood up to his dad, huh?
That was his daddy. That's just like when I was fishing and Nelson hung the fish hook in my hand.
Mm-hmm.
Mom had fixed a big tub of water in the kitchen. Well, she always give us three a bath, and then she'd take a bath. This on Saturday. You only got a bath on Saturday. And she had got the water ready and left us in the kitchen to go get something. And me and Nelson said, well, y'all be fish, and I'll fish. I'll catch you. And he pulled out the drawer with a little line about that long with a little fish hook on it. I don't know what age it was. Big enough I still remember it.
Yeah.
Anyway, when he dropped in, I grabbed it. Well, that
Oh,
hook,
no.
hooked in, and of course I was screaming bloody murder. Well, everybody come in and see what I was screaming about. Well, here comes Papa with a big old razor. You see that strap hanging there?
Yeah.
That's what I got tore up with all the time. Mom whipped me that strap almost every week. Lynn never did anything wrong. He's
He was perfect, huh?
always but the guy. Bubba looked at him and said, Papa, you're not doing that. You're not gonna cut her hand. And he said, we'll get that fish hook out. He said, you go back, I'll get the fish hook out. And he worked till he got that hook out.
Wow.
Papa was tough. Did you know this makes me squirm to even think about it. Evelyn told me about it, I didn't see it. they found a bunch of, this after they moved to town, they found a bunch of baby skunks in that little workshop, and he stuck them on a stick and held them on like barrel fire.
Oh my gosh.
I told you it's tough. You know, Grandma, I started to tell you about Grandma Trent. They finally wrote and told Mama and Papa that Grandpa had pneumonia. Well, as soon as they could manage it, they hooked up the wagon and mules. That's what, wagon and mules, and went to over to Athens. Well, when I got in, come to find out, Grandpa did have pneumonia, but Grandma would make him get up and go to the barn to poop. She wouldn't carry a slop jar for him. And Mom said that's what killed him. She would not let him use a pot in the house. He had to get up and go to the barn.
Go to the barn.
No matter what.
My
And
goodness.
Mama firmly believed that's what caused him to die. We went, you know, that little cedar tree back here at the back, Lazy and Ray, and I don't know, I can't say how many years, not too long ago anyway, when Lazy was living over here. We went back to Grandma and Grandpa Trent's house, and part of the old house was still there, and part of the floor was in it, and the spring, see, they used a spring, they didn't have a well or anything, but back at the back by the barn is the prettiest rolling spring, and that's where they got the water. And someone had a pump there at one time, because the part of the old thing was still there. And I thought, my, how long that house had lasted. Well, there was a bunch of little baby cedar trees all around on the ground, and Ray pulled that one up.
Oh,
It's about like that.
and that's where that came from?
Take this home and put it in the yard.
Was that,
And it's about that high.
where was that house at? Was that close to that Meredith campground where they're buried at?
That's where they're buried, but that's not real close, but that's where.
In that area?
It's in that area, yeah.
And that's in Athens?
It's north of Athens.
It's
North
out
of
right out of Athens, out in the country.
And that's where
That's where
all the kids
Grandpa and
grew up?
Grandma Trent and Aunt Hallie and Uncle Bab, and they, I wondered about them. See, Aunt Hallie and Uncle Bab, he killed her. And he found out that she was seeing somebody, and one morning he took the kids to school, or planned to do that. There was a big lake right behind the house where we used to go swimming. And he took the kids so far and put them out, and then he circled back and went back, because he I don't know why he thought they would be there that day, but anyhow, he walked down to the lake, and they were all hugged up, and he just took his gun and shot her.
Did he shoot the man too, or
He
just?
didn't shoot the man, he just shot Aunt Hattie. And they buried Aunt Hattie over there where all the family's buried. Well, that day when Jim and Evelyn and I went, that's about 4 years ago when we went, and we went back in there, and I thought, well, I told Evelyn, Evelyn didn't know her, but I still remembered. I said, Aunt Hattie is buried over here somewhere. So I just kind of walked way back to the further grave, and I found Aunt Hattie's grave.
And what
And
cemetery
they had
is?
buried Uncle Hap. Now, the boys had, someone had been there with new flowers on the grave.
And what cemetery is this?
Meredith
same one.
campground.
Camp Meredith.
It's,
Well, did he not get put in jail?
No, he didn't get put in jail.
Wow. So he killed his wife,
Killed his wife because she had told him not to meet that man anymore.
but nobody did anything about it.
Well, they went to court, but they didn't put him in jail. He went on with his life.
And he finished raising the kids?
Yeah. Well, they were all big. None of them were little. They were like 15, 16. I don't think there was but 4. I remember the 2 girls and 1 boy. That's all I remember.
Wow.
But anyway, he just took his gun, shot Aunt Hattie.
Wow. I didn't know that.
This guy, I don't
Yeah.
suppose the kids do it, but he had found out some way, and he just put them out, and he walked back and caught them, shot them. He shot them hugged up.
How old was she at the time, do you know? Was she
I have an idea.
30s
They were a
probably?
little bit younger than Mama and Papa, but not a whole lot.
Wow.
I can remember him better than I can her. But that is big lake, the lake was right down behind their house. And that was, they had a piano and they just let me bang that piano. I always wanted a piano so bad when I was little. I just begged for a piano. And I used to go to Bobo and Miss Elva's and play on theirs. Well, one time when we had started, me and Mama was on King going over to Grandma, that was our saddle horse. And Mama said, but if you had a choice between a piano and a baby sister, what would you want? I said, oh, I'd want a baby sister. Only two things I ever wanted was a sister and a piano. She said, well, you're probably going to get one. And I said, why? She said, because I'm pregnant. I just felt the baby kick.
Oh, my goodness.
Bouncing on that horse. And it was, of course, it was Evelyn.
And wasn't she like 45?
She was 41.
41 when she got pregnant with Evan?
She came at 8 months. Mama only had 2 9-month babies. That was me and Dick. The other boys that lived came at 8 months. And the little baby girls, they came at 6.
Wow.
Right, Mama had 2 babies in 1 year.
Wow.
6 months. Exactly.
That's quick.
Yeah. Well, they were born, both of them were born premature, I guess,
Yeah,
right?
6 months.
6 month
But they
babies.
both were alive. All 3 of them. There was a little boy behind the little girls. He died. The babies died.
Yeah.
But Mama said one of them cried after they wrapped it up, laid it down, but they were fighting to save her life. And back then they didn't have the modern stuff. Now they save a 6-month baby.
Yeah.
Because I had a girlfriend that worked with me at R.C. Can, and she moved to, Middle Ocean, I guess. Anyway, she moved off, and she wrote and told me she was pregnant, and the baby came at 6 months, and JBY went to see it. And it did. It looked about that long, looked like a little rubber doll, but she had her hair and had nails. I've heard people say they don't have nails. That's not true.
Yeah.
That baby was 6 months and it had little fingernails and a head full of hair.
Well, there was only
You
what?
had to hold her to feed her. They'd give her, starting off on liquid oatmeal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she sucked liquid. Instead of milk, she had oatmeal. You had to hold her back of her little head where you could get that into her mouth. And she grew up to be a big, strong, healthy girl.
Well, Daddy, I mean, there was only what, 13 months something between Daddy and HT
Just
and Dick?
about.
They were real close. And then,
The only ones that were far apart was me, Ray. She went 4 years after Ray and had me. And then between me, she had Nelson Lynn. About 13 months between all of them.
my goodness.
See, when Nelson died, we were, let's see, 4, 5, and 6.
4, 5, and 6.
There's a picture of me starting to school, and see that picture up there, them little raggedy, look at them little raggedy knees on the boys' clothes.
This one?
Yeah, that's me. That's my first year in school, and that's Lynn Nelson. When I went to school after having that, old Jessie Mae Griffiths told all my friends, said, don't get close to Mutt because she'll give you diphtheria and you'll die just like her brother. That's the way I went home and told Mama. I said, Mama, am I going to die? And she said, well, no, you're not going to die. Look at them breeches. You see them not?
Yeah.
Nelson's shoes are over there, too. I had his little shoes bronze. He had told Mama that day when he told her he was going to die, he said, now, Mother, I want you to keep my shoes
These
and my
shoes?
church cap. Look, that's his Sunday shoes.
Oh.
Can you believe? One time we were fixing to go to church, and Mama said, well, is everybody ready? I said, well, Nelson's done gone and got in the car. That's her son that's in prison.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, well, what's he got on? I said, I don't know, but he told me he was going to go get in the car. Went out there, and he had his shoes and socks on and his cap in his drawers. She had to take him back in the house and get him dressed.
Now, who's in this picture
That's
with you?
Tots.
That's Tots.
That's our graduation picture. Oh, that was one more gal.
Well, I know everybody had nicknames, I guess.
Yeah.
Palma was Bubba. Dick, instead of
His name's
HD.
Hubert Troy.
Hubert Troy, and he was called Dick. Daddy was
Alma
Lazy.
Roselle. And
Ray was Goat.
Urshel Ray.
Was Goat, right?
Uh-huh.
And you were Mutt. I never heard any. Did Lynn ever have a nickname?
Lynn didn't come up with us.
He didn't get something.
We just own him. That's Mama's one and only.
Because I think the nicknames must have stopped with you, because I've never heard one for Lynn or
Mama.
Evelyn. I know, but I mean, after you were born,
Oh,
Lynn or Evelyn don't have nicknames, do they? They're just...
no, and she found out her name's not Bobby. Yeah, I said, well, I know good and well Papa did that because he messed up one of the others. Instead of her going, she had Papa to turn in Evelyn, and he left the Bobby off.
So she was supposed to be Bobby Evelyn.
And all these years, she was called Bobby at school.
Ah,
But they were going, I don't know, Evelyn got everything that was in the house, you know.
yeah.
And she was going through some papers and stuff, and she found Evelyn's birth certificate,
Mm-hmm.
and it had Evelyn Tran on it, didn't have Bobby.
Didn't have Bobby.
I said, why, Evelyn, the variety. It's supposed to be, see, Bobo and Miss Eva, Bob Bruner and Evelyn. Well, they were called, we all called him Bobo, because he was our uncle, because we didn't have any grandparents or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I said, well, what are you going to do, Evelyn? She said, well, it's done, nothing I can do about it. Said, you know, I went all through school. I said, well, Mama didn't know that. She didn't pay that much attention to it, because she would have had that put back on.
Because
They give her that piano that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Evelyn Bobo had a piano, and every time I'd go, boy, I'd get in there and I'd just play. And he told me one time when I got bigger, he's going to give it to me. But then Evelyn come along, and your daddy paid for her music lessons. She and Jerry took music lessons, and Evelyn could play if she wasn't so bashful. But if I've walked up down there that, you know, you'd hear that organ just a-going, but then you step in, it stopped.
she won't play in front of anybody, huh?
She's like me when it comes to something like that. She's bashful.
Well, the people that live next door to Mama and Papa down there, that right there on the corner, now they gave us a piano that we hauled all the way up here into the house over on McLean, and then some point in time they took it back.
Okay, so I didn't remember a piano.
Oh,
It
dear.
must have been before I was born.
Must have been, but I remember because I was trying to help move the damn thing.
It's heavy.
That was the heaviest thing I ever seen.
I probably never would have played it either. Evelyn, I don't know if they still have it or not, but one year Cheryl said, well, she wished she had a piano, she'd take music. So Evelyn said, well, you come and, I've got one that I don't use, you can have both of Miss Evelyn. So they moved it over to her house, and whether she still has it or not, I don't know. But she can play, she just don't.
Well, do you know why Mama named Daddy Alma Rochelle?
Mm-mm.
I always wondered why she had...
She wanted a girl.
That's what I always heard. She wanted a girl, that she'd already picked these names out, and so she just didn't change.
She probably knew someone that she liked, that's what she usually did. See, she heard of somewhere, she went to a bank one time and the teller was named Thyra,
Mm-hmm.
and she never heard that name before. So she told me this, that if I ever have a little girl, it's gonna be Thyra. Well then, at the tail end, she had me, so she named me Thyra. May, the May is after her sister May.
Oh, okay.
Remember Aunt May? No,
I
you
do.
probably don't, Aunt May.
No, I do.
Randy does,
Randy
yeah.
would. So the middle name was after Aunt May.
That's about one of my first memories, was going to her, well, remembering her and then going to her funeral down there in Rural
She
Shade.
was a real sweet old woman, really a sorry old man. Well, I guess he wasn't sorry. Couldn't help he didn't have any education. He lost all of Grandma's land.
Oh.
Their house burned down, and Aunt Donnie had died. I was 10 years old when Aunt Donnie died, and Grandma lived by herself for a long time. Well, she had another man, overseeing the property. Well, when Aunt May and Uncle Will's house burned down, and they lived on Long Prairie, so Grandma said, well, he never could make a living for them. just move in my house and she will let him run the farm. Okay, they sent tax, you know, informed me it's time to pay taxes. That stupid fool never paid a tax, so they come in after they'd been there several years and took the biggest part of Grandma's land.
Oh, so that's how they lost that.
She had the prettiest place, had that great big house, and Grandpa had a barn-like thing over the side, like a blacksmith.
Mhm.
I used to go out there and you pump that and thing, you know, and fire come up out of it, watching him working there. Not a little bitty thing, but I remember when he died too, I was scared to death, because they had a Ku Klux Klan funeral, and I was little, because Nelson was a tiny baby, and it's not like 14 months between us. And I can remember squeezing Mama's dress and seeing all them hoods. You know, Papa was
Yeah.
a Ku Klux. Mama used to take his hood out, and it scared me to death. They came in at the back of the cemetery and made a big circle, encircled Grandpa's grave.
Wow.
Yeah, Papa went to, there was a grocery store there at Real Shade, and he had a 2-story building, and the Ku Klux would meet upstairs, and the bottom was the regular grocery store.
Wasn't he a county leader or something, or wizard or something,
Oh,
Papa?
What?
Wasn't Papa a big leader in the Ku Klux Klan or
Oh,
something?
yeah, he was in that, he was a Mason too.
Yeah.
Wow.
My son teaches Mason twice a week.
Yeah.
So, and what did the Trents grow cotton on their land there in Athens? Yeah.
Lord.
Well, your grandma and grandpa, the
Oh,
place
yeah,
you're talking
they had
about.
cotton and corn and maize. She had probably 200 acres of nothing but land besides the wooded part. She had a lot of woods too. The thing that always fascinated me, and I don't suppose they have them anymore at all. If they did, I'd buy one. She had a little one about that wide and about that high, and it had a drawer. And you take your eggs and put those eggs in that drawer. And every day you had to turn them. It had a light in it, and the baby chicks would hatch.
Hatch the eggs.
And you'd pull them out.
Yeah.
That was the most
Cool.
fascinating thing I've ever seen.
Huh.
Hmm.
I'm sure there's
You had
probably
to
some
turn the
somewhere.
eggs. Every day you go and roll that egg
And roll
over.
the egg.
You've seen old hens take their bill and
Yeah.
roll their eggs?
No, she probably hadn't.
Well, I mean, I've